We're going to get started. We're going to get started in just 1 minute. We're so glad that you've taken time to join us. We're going to start right on the dot, 6 p.m. We like to be prompt and respectful of your time and make sure that we leave enough time for your questions. Super important to us. So thank you. Just give us a few minutes and we will be right with you. Well, okay, welcome. Good evening. My name is Sharon Parento. I'm a realtor with S.M.A.R.T Realty Solutions, and I am joined with my co-hostess, Lucy Solomon, who's a financial advisor with the Cooperators. And we are really grateful that you've taken time from your evening, your Friday evening, to be with us and just to learn a little bit more about how you can make the most of your biggest investment, which is your home property, and prepare for that move down the road into retirement and making sure that you've got the security and the comfort that you've worked so hard to achieve. So without further ado, let's get into our program today. There I am, all photoshopped and looking good. And when we started these seminars, they were in person. And they actually originated from me door knocking my neighborhood and people asking me the same questions over and over. And I thought, well, I can either continue to knock on 30 doors an hour, or I can organize some workshops for people, since those questions with my downsizing clients always seem to revolve around how to declutter, what kind of renovations to do, where they should possibly go as a next move. And so we brought that together in libraries, community centers, senior centers, and delivered it to literally hundreds of people in York Region. So we've always been very, very committed to the notion of public education, because I know that when the time is right for you, that you can make an excellent decision if you are an informed consumer. So that's what we endeavor to do here today. Not a sales job, simply a matter of giving you tools and resources and knowledge to prepare for your future. Okay, so that being said, here's the agenda. My part of the is really going to deal with the realtor's point of view as to evaluating house values in York Region in particular. That's my area of speciality, but also kind of those questions about how to bump up the value and whether you should worry about a granite kitchen or if you should be pulling out the carpet and putting down hardwood everything. So we really want to get into some practical application, but first let's start with the basics, and that is, what are the factors that affect the value of a home? There's a lot that is outside our control as homeowners, and I put myself in that category as well. There are things that are making the market move in one direction or another that are related to the national policies that are being established, some of the regional inflation, employment, mortgage rates. None of that can we control, but to know about them is an important tool in our tool chest in assessing the value of properties. We also want to think of your particular house in the context of its neighborhood. So what's going on in your neighborhood? Who is moving in? What are the kinds of things that they're attracted to in a property? And then how does yours measure up to the competition? So again, some of these are outside our control, but then others are in our control. And we're going to get into that in just a second. The things that you could be doing 12 to 24 months ahead of time to increase the resale value of your property. And there are some things I'm going to recommend doing. And believe it or not, even in this super hot seller's market, there are properties that are not selling the first time they're listed. And it's because they are in the market, they're on the market, but they're not in the market. So what's happened as buyers have come to the property and said, not this property in this condition, at this price, and they have literally walked. They voted with their feet. So we want to make sure that the condition of your property is as good as possible, but not to go overboard. So I think what I'm going to share with you is common sense. It's not rocket science, but it is proven out by our business, which is dealing with downsizing seniors every single day of the week. Okay, so we're looking at things of the market right now too. It's really in the headline news. All throughout the media, we're talking about this hot sellers market, and I have many people saying to me, well, is there a good time to sell versus a not so good time to sell? And I'm going to suggest to you humbly that timing the market is virtually impossible because none of us has a crystal ball. We don't know what the next 3, 6, 9 months holds. All we can really see is in the short term. And what I can tell you is that as long as we continue to have very low supply and very high buyer demand, that mismatch is working in the favor of the sellers currently. If that were to invert and there were more homes for sale than there were buyers, that's the only possible scenario that I could see when prices might decline. And that just really is not what's happening right now. So for every home we have listed lately, we've had multiple offers, meaning there were 10, 12, 18 different buyers who were all competing for that property. And like an auction, it just pushes the prices up. So it is an excellent time to sell, but I don't think that is the most important factor, because whatever you are buying is also increasing in price. So it's working in tandem. For the first time in a long time, though, detached homes are appreciating at a higher rate than condos. I was worried in 2018, 2019 that the condos were creeping up in price at a faster rate, and that many of my downsizers, because they choose condos as an option, we're seeing the difference erode. And many people are counting on that difference as part of the nest egg for their retirement. So there's lots that's going on in the market that we can't control. There are things that are more important and more pressing in your life than worrying about gazing into a crystal ball. When the time is right, the time is right. And like my grandma always says, it is what it is. Okay, so that being said, look at the significant difference in property category. So you could go from a detached home in, let's just say Markham for our argument's sake, where the average price is actually higher than this, but it's about 1.6, 1.7 million dollars. But if you were to go to an average condo in the 905 condo apartment, you could have as much as $850,000, $900,000 difference. So you've got your home, you're still in the market, your investment is increasing in value over time, and you've got this big chunk of change with which to invest with Lucy, and she's going to keep it safe and make it grow. So do you see that by staying in your same region but changing property categories, you can take that equity that's been accruing in your property and have it for your disposal and for your enjoyment? Because there's nothing about the bricks and mortar around us that is amplifying or enhancing our lifestyle right now, right? It's all tied up. You have to let it go, let it go, in order to be able to really enjoy it and appreciate it. So just look at these percentages too. Your home likely has been going up a minimum of 20, 25% year over year. But look, condos, even though they're an excellent investment still, are at a relatively lesser rate of 17%. So that's a big question about timing the market. How do we evaluate properties? What can we do to improve that final result? Well, one of the things you might be asking yourself is, right now, what's my home worth? How can I know what my budget is to buy a condo if I don't know what my home is worth? And if I have to have a minimum of $600,000 to achieve my retirement goals, well, then what's my house worth in order to do that kind of reverse engineering. So we'd like to offer anyone who is here tonight or watching from our Facebook Live audience what we call comparative market analysis. This is not me, you know, kind of figuring it out on a, I think it's this is research, and I'm going to do the analysis of what has sold, what has not sold, because that's an important thing as well, and then also look at what is expected to be the trends for your neighborhood, and we're going to prepare that in a document that explains everything, change of valuation. So you can see that no matter if you're in the luxury market or if you're selling a starter home, the prices, these are just this week, these are homes we just sold, are astronomical. And you know, I hear lots of people saying, oh, our poor kids, how are they ever going to get a home? Well, maybe they're going to need a little hand up from the bank of mom and dad. And certainly we want to make sure that all of your financial goals are achieved. And I'm going to say, I just want to, I don't know if you can see that, but our logo is, the home is only one part of it. You really do need somebody to help you guide through the process. So I think my mouse just died, and I'm going to see what happens now. So I'm going to have to ask Melissa to take over. Thank you. We have a lot of a mindset shift that we need to do when we are thinking of selling our homes. We need to think about how our buyers are interested in finding homes. They see them online, and it's like an online dating app. And it's very important that we do as much before we list the home to present it and to prepare it so that we can take over and promote it. So preparation is the key, so that visually it's appealing, that it has a broad appeal to as many people as possible, and that usually hinges on three things. It's going to be light and bright and neutral. So we work together with you every step of the day, the way, from packing to purging to organizing repairs or painting, and then we stage the home. And we're going to talk about each of those steps in a bit more detail in a minute. And then once we have captured those compelling images of your home, we can take it to the next step and put it out to all of these different social media websites and property buying portals, so that it is being seen by literally tens of thousands of people. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is not me doing this, because my microwave downstairs is still blinking 12, but I'm smart enough to know what I don't know and hire the right people to do it. So we have a crackpot team of marketing people who are going to make sure that your house is fully promoted beyond just the MLS. Like, the MLS is a terrific place to start, but we need a lot more than that to reach these tech-savvy buyers who are interested in living in your home. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, maybe it is working now. So there are some renovations that we are going to recommend. We're going to get to that very quickly, but the one thing you need to remember about your buyer is that they are very cash-strapped. They are leveraged to the hilt. If you think back to when you purchased your home and the level of mortgage you were carrying relative to your salary, it was much more affordable than current buyers are facing today. They really are mortgaged to the eyeballs. And if they ever find 5 cents to rub together, they will spend it on some of the cosmetic improvements, but there's a limit to how much they're willing to do. And plus, if you think of your kids, how much do they really know how to do? This is not the self-sufficient generation that you've come from and your parents were. They have to pay to do everything. And they really don't have the time. They'd rather pay somebody to paint a room than do it themselves in general. So if you have to raise the price to compensate for the renovations that you've done, and now relative to the competition, you're more expensive, you could literally price yourself out of the market. And we've seen lots of examples in your neighborhood and my neighborhood where the sold sign goes up and the next day there's a dumpster, and whatever the people had done is all pulled out anyway. So we don't want to go too far in renovating a property so that it might not even be appealing, or those renovations may not be valued by your buyer. But like most things in life, there's a balancing truth. We do want you to do some things. Look, let me just pause right here and say that we can sell any home in any condition. But what is the thing we have to adjust? We have to adjust the price. And that is not what we're here for. We're here today to learn how to maximize the price. But rest assured, my very first real estate deal was with a hoarder. And that home ended up being bought by investors who took 9.5 tons out of it. So I am completely unshockable. But one of the things that we do want to make sure is that on the broadest appeal basis, your home has some acceptability to buyers. So we also want to make sure that you're not put into that category of a fixer-upper, because that's when you're going to either get no offers or you're going to get lowball offers by investors who are looking to flip it. So what kinds of things am I talking about? Well, we're going to start with the free and the low cost. Sound good? I'm not trying to make work for you. I literally am going to give you only the things that are going to make money for you. Okay, so those are going to include some basics, and this might seem very obvious, but decluttering is the #1 thing you can do to improve the resale value of your home. Because let's face it, we all have a very bad case of affluenza. We have way more than we need. And if we have a lot of that on display, it tends to pull down the walls and make everything look, crowded and smaller. And again, remember the 3 watchwords. It's light and bright and spacious. So this is really something you can be doing in the 12 to 24 months prior to your sale that will make the most difference. And it's something that I call the decluttering battle plan. We actually created an entire separate webinar about this because it's so pervasive as an issue. And I actually argued in one of my blog posts that you can check out on our website that clutter is often what holds older homeowners captive in their home. They would love to sell. They would love to be in a smaller place that was more manageable, but they just don't know how to tackle the basement. And it ends up holding them there longer and longer. And if you've ever had to clear out your parents' home or another relative in an estate sale, you realize that there's a window after which it's really not possible. It's just too much work and too overwhelming. So let's do a battle preemptively so that you can live your lightest, brightest, and most spacious life, never mind your home. So we want to start by doing battle in preparing and having this battle plan. And we go through all of these steps, give you our recommendations how to tackle that project that feels like it's overwhelming. And one of the best strategies that I can recommend is about chunking time. And I literally do this myself all the time. When I have a task that I'm trying to kind of avoid, usually it relates to paperwork and numbers, so that's why I need a Lucy in my life. I will set the timer on my phone for 25 minutes. And if I can just get 25 minutes done, I know that I will have accomplished something, but it's not overwhelming. And the same thing with chunking the time when it comes to decluttering. The other thing we recommend is to stick in the territory that needs it the most. Not just this little, flit around, but stick in the basement. If the basement's what needs it, stay in the garage, whatever it is, and work room by room rather than a little bit here, a little bit there. Okay. And as I said, this is so important. We've created an entire workshop surrounding it. And if you need that little bit of extra help to get started, that motivation and accountability, we've created this 30-day decluttering plan. That is the decluttering challenge. And I mean, it does go against what I just recommended about sticking to one territory, but it's better to get a start on things. And I guarantee you that at the end of 30 days, you will have lost a lot of clutter. I sound like Jenny Craig or something. So we're going to get you started on that. It's a beautiful email campaign. You can print this off. You could join with a friend and just get it started. Okay. So that decluttering battle plan is held once a quarter for sure. So keep a lookout on our website for it. We do it especially in January when everybody is feeling all motivated. And then the other thing we're going to recommend, and again, it's not rocket science here, but it's really important that your home is given a deep clean. And I use the analogy of selling a used car. Right now, my car's sitting in the driveway. It seems to have 1,000 little bits of leaves in it, coffee rings, Post-it notes, business cards. I wouldn't try to sell my car that way. Everybody would think, oh boy, you really probably haven't taken very good care of it. I wonder when the last time it had an oil change was, et cetera, et cetera. The same assumptions are made when we walk into a home. If it's clean and it smells good and it looks good, we think, wow, yeah, it's a little older, but wow, very well maintained. And I hear that from our listings all the time because we hire a professional cleaner just before it goes to market to make sure that it's squeaky clean best. So there's a little to-do list, and those are things you can be chipping off, one at a time. And then just before we list, as I said, we make sure a professional cleaner comes in. So the other thing related to this neutralizing is depersonalizing. We really do recommend that you strip out all of the personal items from your home so that it looks more like a show home. That when people are viewing it online, that they're not seeing your personal business, your family photos or any of that, but also it gives room for their imagination to be able to see themselves in your space. And like the top picture shows, really know what they're buying. Yes, of course, we all live with Cheerios and bananas and Post-it notes, but that's not the way we want to sell a house, right? And so whatever we can do to take out those little personal touches, collections, memorabilia, souvenirs, all of those kinds of things, so that buyers can more better imagine themselves in the spaces if it was their own. The worst feeling is to feel like you're trespassing in somebody else's home. And I guess we kind of are, but when your home is listed, it is more or less public property for that week or 10 days till we get it sold. So the other thing we really recommend is spending the time to address those unfinished repairs. Every person I know has a honey-do list, right? The things that we keep kind of deferring and pushing into the future. And this is a time when undone repairs can really bite you in the neck when it comes time to sell, for one of two reasons. Number one, it goes back to this idea that your home is going to get labeled a fixer-upper. If we walk in and there's, mildewy grout or a faucet dripping, we went into one house once with a buyer and they just happened to open the cupboard door to assess the storage in the kitchen and it fell off the hinges. So we want to make sure that nothing is screaming red flag to your buyers. And especially since many buyers are going to want to do a home inspection, those items that should have been repaired are going to show up anyway. And that's when the buyer's agent is going to try to come back for a rebate on the price. They're going to want to claw back the sale price to cover the new roof that they claim they need, or whatever. So if you know there are material defects to your home, that's what we call it, get them done now on this side of the transaction so that it doesn't end up causing you the stress and aggravation and potential money down the line. Okay, so there's a list of the different systems. You can start checking, making sure that everything is in good working order. And again, when we think of our buyers, they don't want to have to spend $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 on a new roof or a new furnace or new windows. If they have those two nickels to rub together, they're going to want to do paint or carpet or something like that. So far better the big ticket items be addressed. And then at least we can say, ready for your cosmetic updates. But if it's, a roof that has a potential leak or something to that effect, it can really drive buyers away. Make sense? Okay, so The other thing we can recommend to you, and it's not free, it's not easy, but it is transformative, is new paint. If you've lived in your home longer than 10 years, I'm going to hazard a guess that it needs to be repainted. And when we are looking at paint, we're really wanting to neutralize. This is not the time to express your colorful personality, with the exception maybe of your front door. I do like a front door that has a bit of a pop to it, but for curb appeal. But in general, white trim, white ceiling, white doors, and then a very neutral taupey beige or light gray, and that will really help to make your home look much more contemporary. So if you cannot do the whole house, then we always recommend you focus your energy and attention on the main floor, because that's what sells homes. If you think of, again, from your buyer's point of view, what is a bedroom color that they don't like? It's a weekend of work and $150, right? But if it's the main floor and the foyer and the staircase up to the bedrooms, that feels like a big deal. And they will, given the option, go to another property that doesn't seem like it's as much work. So we don't want them to swipe left on your house like it's on a dating app. We want them to look at your house and see that it's not going to be that much, that their furniture can move in there, and it's not going to be such a big deal. Okay, so we have an entire webinar based on going deeper into renovations that we know will improve the return on investment. And we also get into things like prioritizing. What are the highest priorities that you should address first? What kind of budget models could you consider? And we're going to give you a lot of pictures of before and after that are going to help you make your decisions from a buyer's point of view. You just got to think like a buyer. Okay, so that's available to you as well. And we have a workbook for each of these webinars that we're happy to send you, either a hard copy or a soft copy. And if you can't wait for our next round of webinars, that's something that's instantly available for you. Okay, you just head to our website and you can download those with no fuss or muss. So now we get to the last stage of preparation for the property, and that's staging. And now this is a kind of a relatively new phenomenon. 10 years ago, people were not staging homes, except maybe at the highest echelon of luxury. But now I'm going to humbly argue that every home needs some level of staging. And that doesn't mean that we put all of your stuff out onto a pod on the driveway and pull everything brand new in. No, most of the time we use your basic furnishings, but then bring in more contemporary accessories to, again, appeal to that buyer. The buyer who's in their 30s and 40s, who's looking for, a little bit of a pop. So they've made the decision that the home fits their budget, their neighborhood, and now we want to evoke an emotional connection to their property by something that is very like, oh, wow, that looks great. So, back up, sorry, just went crazy. So here's an example of a property that was in the Mill Pond area of Richmond Hill that was on the market for more than a year with another agent. And when we took over the listing, we said, we really do need you to, we really do need you to consider staging the property to appeal to that younger demographic. And my clients were not convinced until they saw these pictures. This is the same room. But when we took out some of their older furnishings, we minimized the impact of so much of the knotty pine, and it all of a sudden looks like a luxury space because we were asking a luxury price. So we had to make sure that the message matched what we were trying to market the home as. So you can see that it's no surprise that this house sold quickly after that. But there's a lot you can be doing at your stage of the game, if you're just thinking about downsizing, that you can be doing now, preparing for that eventuality. And I love this seminar. We have a seminar called Staging Secrets on a Shoestring Budget. And it has a ton of before and after, very practical, hands-on suggestions for the visual marketing of your property. Something as simple as using just white towels in the bathroom and a white shower curtain. Those are things you can be starting on now, and it makes a huge difference. And we'll show you why it does. Okay, so another great option, always free, always without cost obligation, because we want to give you good information all along your journey. So in conclusion, for my part of this presentation, when we take you through and bring you from renovations and decluttering to have these systems that have been proven time and time again to increase the value of your home. And like we said at that very beginning, where we were showing you the difference in the slides, on the slide between the two different property types, going from detached home to a condo apartment, you're going to have maybe as much as $1 million after all is said and done to invest. And this is where we really want to hand over responsibility to somebody who is a trained professional, who will keep your money accessible if you need it, safe, protected, and most of all, to pay as little tax as possible, right? So with that being said, you're now a millionaire. Congratulations. And Lucy is going to take over and let you know what you can do to achieve those end goals financially. So thank you for listening, and we will have time for questions at the end. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sharon. How exciting for everybody. Give me 1 second and let me just share my screen here. And okay, here we go. Perfect. So welcome everyone. It's great to be here this evening with you. And I'm so excited that you all have the opportunity to be a millionaire and to take that million and do something with it. Because at the end of the day, like Sharon said, we absolutely want to help you keep it safe and make it grow and pay less taxes and pass it on to your family as easy and as quickly as possible. So I'm here today to talk about how to invest your proceeds to upsize your retirement. So thank you for joining us. So just gonna very quickly talk about different investment options that are available to you. One of them, which might be new to you, so very good information. And then again, just very quickly on how to proceed. This is going to be a very high level presentation, and by all means, I am more than happy to speak one-on-one with you, have a phone call, have a Zoom meeting, etc. Meet here in my office. I would be more than happy to do that. So just a little bit about myself. So my name is Lucy Solomon. I am a financial advisor. I am licensed, and I'm also a mutual fund investment specialist, and I do represent the cooperators. So I've been in this business now for just under 10 years, and very proud to say that I recently received a CLU designation, which is one of the highest designations that you can receive within this business. And it was just recent, so very proud of that. And I am just super passionate about helping individuals with their insurance and financial needs. So yeah. So a bit more about what we do here at Cooperators. So of course we offer insurance, and a lot of people are familiar with Cooperators and the insurance. So we offer home and auto and business, life, critical illness, disability insurance, etc. But we also plan for you. So we are really passionate about planning for individuals. You might have actually noticed that we recently did a rebrand, and we're actually promoting Cooperators a lot more. Cooperators is not very good at promoting itself, but we're starting to do a bit more promotion, which is great. So we'll build a plan based on your investment goals and personalized investment solutions, and we really are there for you. The products that we offer in terms of investments include seg funds, segregated funds, mutual funds, and we also do annuities. And how we do that, the plan types is through RSPs, tax-free savings accounts, RIFs, LIFs, RESPs, as well as non-registered accounts. So as the saying goes, a doctor cares about your health, a financial representative cares about your wealth. So why would you leave your finances to chance? And recently read an article that says that clients that do use a financial advisor actually do have their money grow more. So I really think it's worth the conversation. It is at no cost. And of course, there's no obligation. So I do think it is worth it. So as Sharon said, you're a millionaire now. So you've cashed in on your home. What's next? How do you protect your money? Of course, you've worked long and hard for this. You've kept your home for a very long time. So you're concerned about protecting that money. But you also want that money to grow. And you also want to make sure that you're going to have enough for retirement. Of course, there's going to be money probably left over. So how do you pass those funds onto your family outside of your estate? And like I said too, how do you bypass probate? So how do you pay less taxes so that your family at the end of the day actually has more? So that's a very big concern for people, estate planning and probate. So there are three options that I am going to mention today. And the first one being everyone's familiar, and we all have a bank account. So one of the very first options, of course, that you could do is just take that $1 million and just leave it in your savings account at the bank. So of course your money is safe. You can add your children's name to that bank account. However, that is risky. And the reason why that is risky is because they could wipe you clean. What if all of a sudden your children don't like you, or you have an argument or something? They could literally wipe you clean. And you can add a named beneficiary to your bank account, or to accounts at the bank that are in RSPs and TFSAs. So that's good. But what's going on there at the bank? So of course, with bank accounts and interest rates being so low, the thing is that right now, the interest amount at the bank is not keeping up with inflation. So that's a concern, because you can have that $1 million, but it's actually worth, the value of that $1 million is actually decreasing if it's not keeping up with inflation. Another con, of course, as I mentioned earlier, is with putting your children's names on the bank account, is that they can use those funds without your approval. But importantly too, is that the bank account does become part of your estate. So those funds that are in there, if they are a non-registered account, so just your regular savings account is non-registered, and that money does go and does become part of your estate, and therefore it does go through probate. What that means is that there's going to be a 1.5% fee that is charged on that money. And not only that, but funds are held up for approximately 6 months. That's how long the whole probate process does take. So although that money is there, your family's not getting it within days. They are actually waiting for that whole process to go through. And they are, of course, the estate is paying a tax on that of 1.5% in Ontario. So the other option, which a lot of clients are very familiar with because the banks do offer this, is mutual funds. So what's good about mutual funds is that it is an investment. So there is the potential for growth. If it's an RSP or TFSA, you can register it. So there would be the beneficiary. And of course you can redeem anytime. Big cons about mutual funds though is, and I'm going to point to like this, the second thing here is that it is a mutual fund. So it is an investment. It can have substantial gains, but it can also have losses. So if we experience the 2008 crash, if that comes again, and the markets are cyclical, so that likely will come again, you could potentially lose a lot of money. There are no maturity or death benefit guarantees in mutual funds. And if you are an advanced age and you do have your money in mutual funds, I would highly recommend sitting down with a professional, someone that does provide the next option, which I'll talk about, because having your money in mutual funds at an advanced age is very risky, I would say, simply because there is no guarantees. Again, also because it is unregistered, or for those funds that are unregistered, those mutual funds do become part of the estate. So they are going to go through probate. There is going to be the 1.5% fee, and the funds are going to be held up for approximately 6 months. It could actually even take longer. There are also fees, etc., with mutual funds, which most people are familiar with. So now the option that I really want to talk about, which is the one that I'm most passionate about, and which is especially for clients that are seniors that are looking for a different option, what they should be really considering. And what I love the most is segregated funds. So segregated funds are only offered by insurance companies. So if you were to walk into your CIBC or your credit union, they wouldn't be able to talk to you about segregated funds because they do not offer it, because they are only offered by life insurance companies. So a lot of people will say, well, why is it that I really haven't heard about segregated funds? And my answer to that is because the banks, who are amazing at marketing their products, they don't have this product, so they're not marketing it. And generally, insurance companies are not very good at marketing investments because it's not really something that they've really been in the game for too long. So it's kind of like, unless you have a financial advisor who has been talking to you, or you know someone that is in the insurance industry and does offer this, you might not actually know about this option. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail with it. So segregated funds are very similar to mutual funds in that there is market growth potential. So it is an investment. So we do invest your funds according to your risk profile. So if you're in advanced age, you're most likely going to be a conservative investor, and you're going to invest your funds conservatively, but you are most likely going to get a greater gain than you would at the bank in a regular savings account. If it's non-registered, you can redeem those seg funds at any time. So if you put, let's say 100,000, and you're like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go on that beautiful vacation now. I want to pull out 50. You can pull it out anytime. It's exactly the same as mutual funds. Well, what's super, super important with segregated funds is they do offer both a death as well as a maturity guarantee. So there is really nothing else on the market except for like your money at a bank account, which you're not getting much for, that offers a maturity and a death benefit guarantee. So what that means is if you deposit $1 million, the markets tank, you've lost 200,000 at death, your money comes back to $1 million. So the money that is passed on to your family is that full $1 million. Maturity guarantee, every 15 years, whatever money that you put in those funds, if the same thing, if the markets tank, we reset you back up to that deposit amount that you deposited. Yes. So the other thing too is you are able to name a beneficiary for both registered, so your TFSAs, your RSPs, etc., as well as your non-registered accounts. So by naming that beneficiary, similar to a life insurance policy, you have beneficiaries set up, so be it your children, your grandchildren, etc. Absolutely, at time of death, your family, your beneficiaries will receive those funds without delay. It bypasses probate. There is no 1.5% fee. They get the funds within days. So it is brilliant. It is a brilliant product for anyone that is looking for estate planning. How do I pass my money on to my family without it being tied up? Can I change beneficiaries? Yes, absolutely, you can. Anytime. It's just simple paperwork. So very, very amazing product for this need. There is, I do need to point out, there is, of course, fees, but the growth in the accounts is net of fees. Of course, it is subject to gains and losses, exactly the same as mutual funds, but there is those guarantees, so you are protected, and you can rest easy knowing that. So, oh, let me also mention one last thing is that you might be thinking, oh, but I probably need to deposit like 500,000. They won't even talk to me unless like we bring in a lot of money. That is not the case at all. I actually just had a lady in here this afternoon, and she's like, I'm really interested in the seg funds, but I'm not sure. Like, I'd like to start with $250. Absolutely. Our minimum is $250 just to open the account. So that's not the fee. That's just the amount that you need to deposit. Or if you want to try $50 a month, you can do that. So it's a good way to just kind of like get a feel, get the paperwork, see how the beneficiaries are named, etc. Just get a feel for it. And then at any point, if you decide like you want to, transfer money in, etc., you're able to do so. So I love the slide. And what the slide actually shows you is simply if you were to be given, or if you were to earn that $1 million that Sharon's going to get you. So if you take that same million and you leave it in your bank account, versus putting it in a mutual fund, investing in a mutual fund, or investing in a SEG fund. With an interest rate, right now, interest rates at a bank account are far less than 1%. So if you were to have an interest rate or even 0.5% at the bank and say 4% in a mutual fund and 4% in a SEG fund, what would happen if you had that same money and you invested it for 10 years? What would be the growth? So the growth in the bank account would be about $51,260. The growth in the mutual fund and the growth in the SEG fund is exactly the same because they're both earning the 4%. So you can see that in both the mutual fund and SEG fund, after 10 years of about 4% interest rate, and that is average, and that is at a conservative amount actually right now, because the markets have been doing well this year and last year as well. So you're earning about $500,000 after 10 years, much better than the $51,260 that you're earning in a bank account. So that's one benefit right there. But now if we go on further and we look at what happens in terms of probate, so at death, of course, we need to worry about those funds. They need to be probated. So your money in the bank account, all of it, that entire balance of $1,051,260 needs to be probated. The mutual fund, the full 1.480 needs to be probated. The SEG funds, $0 needs to be probated. So there you go, SEG funds. Now, how long is that money going to be tied up? Of course, with the bank account mutual funds, approximately 6 months. With the SEG funds, 0 days. The funds pass to the family outside of the will and bypasses probate. So they are not tied up at all. Now, on top of this, there's also the probate fees. So what's approximately the amount that your money that has been sitting in the bank account, on top of not earning enough, now you're also going to be paying probate fees, or your state is going to be paying probate fees, I should say, of about $15,768.90. Plus, of course, legal, accounting fees, executive fees, etc. Mutual fund, it's going to be about $21,454. Again, plus legal fees, accounting fees, executive fees, etc. Segregated funds, 0. So not only are you not paying the probate fees, but your family gets it way faster. So at the end of the day, how much money is your family getting? So that money in the bank account, the family, after the probate, etc., they're getting about $1,035,000 more or less. The mutual fund family is getting 1.458,790, and the segregated family is getting 1.480244. Now, imagine how your family would feel knowing that, wow, my parents actually were so proactive and really thought about making it easy for me so that I get that money right away. Because imagine how, I'm just thinking now, like my parents are 92. I do have my parents' money in SEG funds. My dad is 92. My mom is 84. I've planned for them. So I know once they pass on, or once my last parent passes on, it's going to be super easy for me, or actually for myself and my sisters, because the beneficiary already set up. Myself and my sisters, we already know exactly what's going to happen. We're all each going to get our portion within 3 months. I've kind of already planned. I know it's kind of like, that's not very nice, but I've already planned in my mind what it is that I want to do with that, because I've got a family, so I want to prep for that. But it's just a great feeling knowing that your family or your parents have actually planned that for you. So other things I want to leave with you is that, yes, of course, your money in the bank is safe. There's no question about that. But the funds do get tied up in the estate. Big thing with mutual funds, and honestly, anyone that is in advanced age, if they do have their money in mutual funds, I highly, highly recommend that you sit with somebody and you look at that, because I wouldn't recommend it. If the markets go down, the potential for loss is huge. So not only is there's no guarantees, but again, the probate, funds tied up in the estate, etc. With SEG funds, it's safe. There's death, there's the maturity guarantees. And like I said, beneficiary receives the funds within days, bypasses the probate. So had a question earlier, and I actually included the slide this evening, in terms of what are the rates of return approximately. So I hope that you guys can see this well. I'm not sure, but I do know that Sharon is going to be sending this presentation after, so you'll be able to see it closely. And of course, you can also go onto our cooperator's website. All this information is there. It's public to everybody. You can also call me. Of course, we can discuss it in more detail. But just to give you an idea, so this is 2016, 2017, 18, 19, 20. So in 2018, the markets actually tanked around Christmas time, December 2018. So pretty much every fund was in the negative for that year. But in 2019, the returns of our very conservative portfolio was about 7.27%. And in 2020 last year, 6.83%. Don't have the 2021 numbers yet, but the markets are doing well this year. And the fund that I actually really like is this balanced fund here, the Cooperators S.M.A.R.T Balance Fund. That's actually the fund that I have my personal money in. And last year, it averaged 7.94%. So again, talking to clients that are in a more advanced age, I always recommend a conservative portfolio. You've worked hard for your money, so you don't want to lose it, even though there's those guarantees. I'd rather you be conservative and make sure that yes, you're going to have some growth, but that you're in a conservative fund. So just, yeah, so hopefully that helps. So just to let you know, we will guide you. So it doesn't start and end tonight. So we're happy to sit down with you, create a plan, look at tax implications. We'll talk to you about best way to plan the estate. So we do have estate professionals that are our head office that are at our disposal to us, and they will help and guide us as well. I'll help you with your risk profile. So help you just decipher if you're a conservative, moderate, or aggressive investor. Of course, if you want to go aggressive, that is up to you. We can do that. But it's my recommendation to not do that. And we'll invest accordingly to your profile and adjust accordingly. So I tend to meet with my clients at minimum once a year. If they want to meet more, absolutely, we're happy to do that. And we'll go from there. So like I said, we can just start slow. Oh, one thing that is really important. So you do, even though you might have powers of attorney, your powers of attorney cannot set up accounts for you. So sometimes people think, oh, but I have a financial power of attorney. They can set up this account. Even if I've lost my mind, they'll be able to do it for me. And they'll be able to make sure that my funds go into SEC funds. No, cannot be done. What they can do is they can move funds. They cannot set up or open up the account. So if you're thinking that maybe this is something you want to do, but you're not sure right now, my recommendation is just deposit $250, open up the account. And then that way, even if you don't have the capacity to do it, but your financial power of attorney thinks this is a good way to have the funds go directly to the family upon your death, then do it while you are in a good state of mind and you are able to do it. So that's my recommendation. And that's my info there. Feel free to take a screenshot of that. You're also going to get the presentation and come and see us. We're right at Yonge and Stovall Road in the Muvati Gym Plaza, or right next door to Meridian, or if you order pizza, we're right there, right at Yonge and Stovall in the Oak Ridges area. And that's our office number, and that is my personal cell phone number and my email address. So by all means, feel free to connect with me, and I would be more than happy to help. Hope you found this information handy, and I'll pass it on to you, Sharon. I think we're going to open it up for questions, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So thank you so much, Lucy. I didn't know about seg funds until you told me about them. So I really appreciate you taking the time from your Friday night to share with us. And I know that anybody who comes into your practice is in good hands. So are there questions that anybody would like to ask in the chat box, or unmute yourself? We also had some questions emailed in earlier, I believe, so we can address those as well. But for the time being, any questions from people who are listening right now? Okay, well, I do remember that one of the questions that we had posed in our email correspondence, somebody asked us about timing the market, and I think we addressed that in terms of really putting it in the context of your bigger financial picture and establishing those goals with your financial planner, and then using your potential downsizing as just one of those tools in the tool chest, so to speak. Any other questions about real estate, about the market? Okay, here we go. Here's a question. Oh, and this is a financial question for Lucy. It says, Are there any limits to depositing in RRSPs and TFSAs yearly?
Good question. So yes, there are limits. So with RSPs, it's 18% of your yearly income. Now, if you haven't been depositing, then that amount does what's the word, push forward, I guess. That's not the correct term, but like you do carry that amount forward. So if you are not maxing out on that 18% of deposit into your RSPs, and then like a few years down the road, you have, I don't know, maybe you get a big bonus or something comes up and you get a large amount, you're absolutely able to contribute up to that limit. So when you do go and do your income taxes, on your notice of assessment, it actually does tell you what your contribution room is for your RSPs. And I do highly recommend that people max out that contribution room, not only because you're planning for your future, but also because it does help you in terms of paying less taxes on your next income tax return. And with TFSAs, if you have not deposited at all, I think the amount right now, as long as you we're at a certain age, at a certain year, I can't remember, I'm sorry, I don't have the details in front of me, but I think the max that you can contribute right now is $75,500. And every year, the government does give you, historically, the last few years, I think it's been about $6,000 worth of contribution rooms towards your TFSA. I highly, highly recommend maxing that out because a very easy way to invest. And you don't pay any taxes. You're not going to, government is not going to tax you on that interest that you've earned. So thank you for that question. Great question. And also you can, for both RSPs and TFSAs, you can do both mutual funds as well as SEC funds. So you can have either or a combination of both. Great question. Thank you. Any others?
Okay. Here's a question. Number one, for real estate, about whether there's a real estate bubble. Well, that is the $100,000 question. I don't think that there is currently a real estate bubble. There is this overheated market, but a bubble implies to me that prices could be expected to decrease sometime soon and suddenly. You know, that the bubble bursts. And I just don't think that's what's happening right now. I think as long as there are more buyers than there is supply, I think the prices are going to continue to increase. It's just really an issue of how quickly they are accelerating. So I don't think we're going to see a time when your detached home is going to drop in price, but it could just level off. If there was a sudden increase in the number of homes for sale around you, and now you're in competition for those buyers, or if interest rates were to climb to such an extent that affordability was just beyond most people's reach and homes were sitting unsold, and then prices would drop to attract those buyers again. But both of those, I think, are not likely scenarios. And then a question about eliminating blind bidding. Well, let's just talk about that for a second. Blind bidding is the practice where people are not aware. When they are purchasing a home, you submit an offer, but you don't know what any of the other offers are. So it's like a blind auction, and the home prices can rapidly escalate in that context. And I don't think that that's really the issue so much for buyers as just the number of buyers versus the numbers of properties. So I can't imagine that happening, number one. I think there are some safeguards that are involved in blind bidding, and that it doesn't just become a race for the rich only, that because we don't know what the other offers are, it helps keep them in check. So if I knew that the other bid was for 1.5 million, there's nothing stopping me from going 1.501 or 1.502, like on the Price is Right or something like that. So it's not going to necessarily help buyers have a more level playing ground. So I don't think that's just my personal opinion. And definitely realtors vary on this issue for sure. So that's about the blind bidding process. Any other questions from the audience, from the listeners? How about you, Lucy? Got any real estate questions?
Oh my goodness. I wasn't
It's been
expecting
a
that.
long day.
It's been a
Yeah, I
long
know.
day. It has
I
been.
just put you on.
Yeah, you know what? If I were a senior, I know that you kind of touched on this, but if I was like ready to go, what would be the best month to list my house? What do you think?
Well, there is a seasonality to the real estate market. Typically, we look at the spring market as being the time when homes fetch the highest price, but they are also in competition amongst other homes in the neighborhood. So if you have concerns about the condition of your home relative to what you've seen come on the market around you, then I would say that any time is a good time to list your home, and actually it might work against you to be in with the pack spring sellers. So there could be a really strong argument for early January, because the people who are coming out in blustery weather to look at homes are very serious, well-qualified buyers who are not there just to, looky-loo or tire kick. They are there to make a purchase. So we've had a lot of success with homes that are not in great condition being sold ahead of that spring market. But the really most important thing is whenever you're ready. Like, that's really the answer, is when you're ready to sell, that's the right time to sell.
Perfect. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
I really appreciate everyone's time and being here. Thank you. We're going to make sure that you get this sent out to you, as we've mentioned, so that you can review it at your leisure. We have some accompanying resources that we're also happy. If the very first question that you need to answer in this process is, what's my home worth? That's a really logical place to start. So feel free to reach out and request that property evaluation, and we'll make sure that we get started on that for you, so that you can start your planning with a firm idea of what you've really got to work with. Okay. Thanks, Lucy.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Great weekend, everybody.
Yeah, you too. Bye for now.
Bye.
Really
Bye.
appreciate it. Bye.
Okay, bye.